Hello and welcome to Learn Coding Tutorials. In this video, we are going to build an app using Vue.js and Cloud Firestore. Here are the topics that we will be covering in this video. These topics will be showing up on the screen as we go through the tutorial, so you don't need to worry about memorizing them all. But if you want, you can pause it here just to take a look at all the topics that we'll be covering. This video is going to cover a lot of ground really quickly, so feel free to pause the video if you ever feel like I'm going too fast. So this is the app that we will be creating. Let's take a look at it. So first, it displays a list of our products here. We have a MacBook and an iPod. We can add a product. So let's say ID of 5. Let's say this is going to be an iPad. Let's say it costs $200. We can press the plus button and it will add it to our list here like that. And then we can edit our item here. Let's say we change the price to $100. We can press the check mark and it will save just like that. My network's a little bit slow right now. You can press the delete button to delete an item, just like that, and it'll go. And then you can also press the magnifying glass to view the product detail page, and then you can go back to our products list right here. So now let's take a look at how to build it. This is the GitHub repository for this tutorial. This has the final code, so you can clone it to get the correct code and compare it with your code if you're finding trouble with some bugs in your app. As for why you might want to use Vue, there is a video at the v-fore.org website here that goes through the good features of Vue. We're not actually going to go through a description of what Vue is or why you should use it. We'll leave it for you to decide whether you like it or not. The goal of this video is simply to get started right away to build a cool app using Vue and Firestore. Okay, so to start off, let's install Vue. To do that, let's go to the website. There's a Get Started button here, and then Installation, and then we can scroll down to the Vue CLI here, where it will give us instructions on how to use the Vue CLI, which is probably the best way to get started. So let's just follow the instructions here. In my code folder here, or you can do it in whatever folder you want. I'm just going to do npm install --global vue-cli, and I've already done it, so I already have it, but I'm just going to do that anyways. We'll wait for that to finish, and then I will do Vue init. I'm just following the instructions here, and then a Vue Firestore tutorial. That's what I'll name this. It's going to build it. Project name, just press enter, 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 enter again. I'm going to press yes for Vue Router. We'll do no for ESLint, no for tests, no for that. And then we'll use npm. We can also use yarn, which is really good also. It's going to install the project dependencies, so we'll wait for that to finish. Okay, so now that's finished. Let's follow these instructions here now. cd Vue Firestore tutorial, and then we're going to do npm run dev, and then follow the instructions here. It's building, and then it says your application is at localhost 8081. It's at 8081 for me because I already have it running somewhere else, so let's just go there and then I'll get it back onto 8080. So you can see that we have our starter app here. So now let's take a look at the code and do some playing around with that. Okay, so you see here I've restarted my npm run dev, and now it's running on 8080 and 8080 here. And let's open up the code now. I just have a shortcut for doing that here, and let me just drag it over here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some basic layout setup with Materialize CSS, which will help us do some quick and easy styling. So let's go to the materializecss.com website here. Let's click on Get Started, and we're actually going to paste the CDN code into our index.html here. So this is our CSS. Let's paste that into our head up here. So let's just put that up here. And then we have our JS code. Let's put that down here. And then Materialize CSS also needs jQuery. So let's go to jQuery. Let's get a jQuery CDN version right here. And then we will get the minified version of the latest one. Copy all of this code right here. And then let's just put that in right above the Materialize CSS right there. Save it. And then now, when we go back here, you can see that Materialize CSS has changed some of the font sizes here. And then let's get rid of this boilerplate stuff right here. So let's go to Components, Hello World. Let's just kind of erase all of this stuff right here. And let's just replace it with div, and then maybe h1 placeholder right now. And then let's get rid of this data right here. And this styling. We don't need this right now. We're going to build this app from scratch. So if we save it, and then let's get rid of the image right here in the app.vue. So we edited the hello world, and then we change this to index. Let's actually change this file name right here. Let's change this to products, since that's going to be the file name that we're using. And then let's change that in app also, or actually in router index. We're going to change all of these to products. And now you can see that our app has a simple placeholder here. We're also going to use the Materialize CSS icons. So you can go to components here, click on icons, and let's put in this icons CDN here in our index.html also. So let's just put that underneath here, like that. Now let's go ahead and set up Firestore. Setting up Firestore is basically the same as setting up Firebase. There's just an extra option that you put into our code once we get Firebase set up. So let's click on Getting Started here, or Get Started here. It'll take us to the Firebase console. We can click Add a Project, and I'm going to name this project Vue Firestore Tutorial. You can name it whatever you want. We're going to click Create Project. Wait for that to create. And then now we're going to say Add Firebase to our web app, since that's what we're creating. And it'll give us a config here. So let's copy this config here. And we're going to paste that into a folder that we create. Let's just name it database, since Firestore is going to be our database. So let's create a DB folder, and let's create an index file in there, index.js. And then let's, in this file, let's write import Firebase. Actually, first we need to install Firebase. So let's go back to our terminal. Let's do npm i-s. This is going to save it to our package.json dependencies, and then install Firebase. And then while we wait for that to install, let's go back to our code. Firebase from Firebase. The linting for the Vue in this directory, they don't use semicolons, which I find kind of weird, but we're just going to follow the syntax that they prefer. So let's continue importing what we need. Let's do Firebase /Firestore. So this is what's going to give us Firestore. And then let's paste the config that we put here. And let's actually change this to const, so it's ES6 friendly. And let's change all of these to single quotes, since this is JavaScript. And we need one more quote here. And then we're going to change this to a const right here, constant. And then we're actually going to export default Firebase app dot Firestore. So this is what's going to set up our Firestore. And Firestore is basically something that's a little more scalable. It's kind of it's in beta, so it's experimental, but it has a lot of potential. So now we have our Firestore set up, and let's actually get rid of these semicolons here for the style that Vue prefers. I'm probably going to forget a lot of these later on. I'll probably put them in accidentally, but let's just try to remember when we can. Next, let's learn how to populate our state with data. So in here we have data is a function. It returns an object, which is basically the state of this page right here, or this view. And here we're going to have a property called products, and it's going to end up being an array, but let's just test it out. Let's put in this is a test, and then we can try to put that state into our template here. And let's first open up our app here, and let's put in here products, save it. And you'll see that it changes to this as a test, and whatever we change this to right here, we can say hello, it'll change it to that automatically. So let's actually make this an array, an empty array for now, since we're going to be populating it with an array of products. And let's just keep this as, let's name this just products up here for now. And before we move on, let's actually set up our menu and a little bit of styling. So let's go back to our app right here. And then you'll see that here we have the router view. That's where the pages display. But something that we want to display on every page is our menu. So to make our menu, let's type in nav, let's use the shortcuts here. And then let's have the class nav wrapper. And then let's name it blue darken 4. So we'll save that. So you see that we have a nav right there. And then let's type in, and then let's give this a class of brand logo, and then name it my eStore. We can name this whatever we want right here. And you'll see that my eStore is populated up there. And then let's delete this default styling right here. And this page is not scoped. You'll see that in the products here, we have a scoped here. And it says that adding scope will limit the CSS to this component only. But here we want the CSS to be global. So let's put in a body here. And then let's give the background, let's give it E3F2FD. And then let's say margin 0, so that everything aligns like that. And now let's wrap our router view here with a container class name so that it gives it some nice padding around the edges. Save it. Okay, so that looks pretty good right there, and let's move on. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to use a lifecycle method called created. Vue has a bunch of lifecycle methods that you can call. One of them is created. You can also do something called v-fore create, which will run before the component's created, but here we're going to use created. So this will be run when the component is created. And in here, we're going to fetch the list of products from our database. But first, we need a list of products to fetch. We need a comma here. So let's go back to here. Let's exit from here. Click this X. Here we can click on database. And then let's go to the Firestore beta here. And then let's do start in test mode since we are not in prod, not production. So it's going to open. And once it's open, let's create a collection. Let's name it products. And then let's just create two different products here. So one of them will be a value of, well, this one's going to be a product of, this one's going to be a field of product ID with the value of 1. We'll add a field, and we'll add a field of name, and then this will be an iPhone. Add a field. This will be price. Let's make this $6.50, and then we'll save. So it's created one document. Let's just add one more document here. Let's do product ID of 2, add a field. Name is going to be, let's say, MacBook Pro. Add a field. Let's say price of $2,500, and then we will save that. So now we have two items in our database, and here we are going to fetch these items using our Firestore database here. So what we're going to do first is we are going to import Firestore. So we're going to do import db, so that's our database, from, and then it'll be at db, and since we have the index there, we can just do that. And then here, the way that you fetch it is you're going to do db.collection, and then remember we named our collection here products, so the collection is going to be products here. And then we are going to get, and then this is a promise, so Firestore uses promises. And then we're going to take the query snapshot, that's just what the object is called there. And then what we're going to do, this is just the syntax for Firestore. For each of the items in the query store, each of them is going to be a doc, and then let's just console log out the doc right here. So let's save it, and that's because we actually forgot to define the variable here. That's silly of me. Firebase app equals that. So now let's go back to here. Let's refresh it. And you can see that we have two docs here. And these are kind of ugly, so the way that you get the data, you'll see here that in the proto there's a data function. So to grab the data for the doc, we do doc.data. So let's console log that out, and that's actually going to be a lot cleaner. You'll see that these are the properties that we put in from the Firestore directly. Now what we want to do is for each of these docs, we are going to push them into products, and the way that you access this products right here is you do this dot products. We're just going to do dot products. Can't spell here. Dot push. We're just going to push the doc right there. Let's save it. And now let's render our product list by using v-fore. So the way that you do that is let's first create a collection div right here, and we're going to add a v-fore here. So let's do v-fore equals, and so we're going to do product in products. And so basically it's going to take each of the items in the products array here, and each one is going to be a product. And we also need a v-bind a key so that each one kind of has a unique identifier. And we're going to just make the key product.product ID. And then down here, let's create divs that are collection item. And then let's just type in here div. Let's just console log, or let's just display the product.product ID. Let's save that. Oops, this should actually be a doc.data, which we found out earlier. So let's save it again. So you'll see that the doc ID was printed out here. And now let's do the same thing with the other three. are the other two. Let's do product.name here, and then product.price here. And so you'll see that they are rendered like that. Let's just add a little bit of styling. Let's do here products list item here, and then we're going to add a class to the scope here. Let's do products. This is BEM syntax, which helps to avoid clashes of class names. Let's do display flex, align items, center, and let's do justify content, space between. Save it. So it looks like that now. And let's actually sort this list using Vue's computed method here, or computed property, which allows you to compute data for your Vue state. So what I'm going to do here is, actually computed should just be an object here. And we're going to create a new item in our state called sorted products. And it's going to basically be return this.products, and we're just going to sort that. And so there's going to be an A and a B. This is just standard sorting. And then we are going to return, actually we need to slice this here so that we are not directly mutating products. And then we're going to do A.product ID minus B.product ID. And then let's change this up here to sorted products. And you'll see that now it is sorted properly, that it's sorted numerically ascending now. The purpose of computed properties is to take logic out of the DOM. We could theoretically put all of this logic up here like this, but that just makes our DOM really complicated, and we don't want that. So it's better to keep our logic inside of this computed property here, and then just put the sorted products in the template up here. Next, we are going to learn how to use vModel to manage and control our inputs. And to do that, we're going to create a add product form so that we can add products to our list. First, let's just change this to an H3 so it's not quite as big. And then let's add our add product thing here. So let's say add product. And then inside of here, or underneath here, we're going to say div class of card, and then also products add product. We'll do a little bit of styling in a little bit. And then let's have a div here. Inside of the div, we're going to have an input. Let's say input. And let's, and inside of this input, we are going to have a vModel. And we're going to have something called add product data. This is going to be an object in our data underneath. So let's just do product ID in that. Let's actually define this add product data object for now. So in this data here, let's have an add product data, and that's going to be an object with a product ID. And let's just start it with an empty string, name, empty string, and price, empty string. So we're starting our product data at empty strings, and this is going to be referring to the product ID down here. And let's give it a class of, this is a Materialize class, so validate. And then let's have a placeholder equals ID. And let's do the same thing with our other two fields here. So let's copy paste this. It's going to be, let's say this is going to be name right here. And placeholder here is going to be name. And then this is going to be price. Price. And let's just add some styling to this products, add products here. So you can see right now it looks kind of ugly there. We're going to do some styling to make it look a little nicer. So let's go back down to this scoped area, and let's say products, add product, and we're just going to do the same styling as we did here. So let's copy paste that and save it. Now we can see that it looks a little bit nicer there. And then let's do one more thing. Let's add a plus button at the end here. So let's do div, and then the way that we do icons with Materialize is let's do I, and then it's going to have a class of material icons, and let's make it medium size just so it's a little bit bigger. And then down here, and the icon that we're going to use is add. So we save it. Now we can see the plus button down there. Now what we want to do is we want to add an event handler so that when we click on the ad, it's going to add the data that we put into the input fields. So to do that, let's add a attribute here Let's just make it multi-line to make it easier to read. So now we're going to add an event handler or a click handler. We could do v on click equals on add, which is a method that we will define below. But a shorthand way to do this is we can just do at click. So that's an easier way, or just a more concise way to write that. So now we see that we have a on add method here. We want to add that method down here now. And so you see we have computed, we have created. Another thing that we can add in Vue is called methods. And methods is just an object of methods that this Vue can access. So down here we want to define our onAdd method. And this method is going to do db.collections and then products. And to add something to our Firestore, we want to do .add. And then we're going to say this .add product data. And then basically, after we add it, then we want to basically refresh our list. So we basically want to redo this code here, which is going to get our products, and then it's going to set our list. So let's make this into another method right here. So let's say we say get products, and that's just going to be this code here. So this is going to get our products, and then it's going to refresh our list. And then instead of this code here, we're going to say this.getProducts. And then down here, so after we add our product, we're going to say this.getProducts. So now, when we enter things into our inputs up here, it's going to automatically be synced to this add product data. This one's going to be add product data.product ID. This one's going to be named. This one's going to be price. So they're going to automatically update this add product data down here with the product ID, name, and price. And then when we click on the add, it should add that to our Firestore, and then it's going to refresh our list. So let's try that out. We need a comma here. Save that, refresh that. All right, so let's try adding something. Let's say iPad. Let's say that it's 200. And then let's click our plus button. Oops, we actually forgot to start off with an empty array. So what we did here was we actually added all of these to the existing array. So what we want to do is first say const products is equal to an empty array, and then we're going to push it to products here. And then at the end of this loop here, we're going to say this.products equals products. So now if we refresh our page here, you'll see that our 3 documents show up correctly here. And let's try adding another one for, let's say, iPod and $50. And let's click on this plus here and add that. You'll see that it adds correctly like that. And let's actually make this plus button a cursor. So let's say, just styled better, Materialize, material icon, cursor, pointer. Oop, this should be an S right here. Now you can see that when we mouse over this, it'll be a cursor, which looks a little nicer. Now let's learn how to delete data using Firestore. So to do that, let's copy paste this div add right here. Let's put it down here, and let's make it a delete button. So let's make this delete. That's the icon, and then let's say this will be on delete. And we're actually going to pass in the product.product ID, so we know which item that we want to delete. And then down here, we're going to define our onDelete method. So when we click on it, it's going to delete the item. So let's define it right here, onDelete, and then it's going to have the product ID here. And then the syntax for deleting from Firestore will be db.collection, products. Here we need to actually search for the document in the products collection. So we're going to say where, so product ID. So this is going to be the product ID of the item in the Firestore database. Let's put this on a new line. And then you're going to put in 3 arguments here. The first one is the ID of the document in Firestore. The second one's going to be our comparator. So we need to make that a string like this. So we're going to say where product ID equals, and then the product ID that we passed in. And then after we find it, we're going to .get to get the document. And then we are going to so basically this is going to get the document. And then we want to take this query snapshot, which we did earlier, and then loop through it also, just like above. And this is basically just the syntax for Firestore, so it's just good to get used to it for each of the docs. And the doc will have a ref, which is basically a reference to the document, and then we're going to delete this. And then just like above up here, we're going to want to refresh our list after we delete our document. So we're going to say then this.getProducts. So let's try that out right now. Oh, and we want to get rid of the medium up here because that icon is just way too big. Save it. And then let's try to click on our trash can button. And you'll see that the item got deleted as expected. Let's try deleting number 3 now. And that worked as expected also. Next, let's learn how to do conditional rendering with v-if. To do that, let's first create an edit button right next to the delete. So let's copy this and let's paste that down here. And let's make that a mode edit, which is the name of pencil. Mode edit. And then let's save it. And you'll see that the pencil icon shows up right there and it has a cursor. Let's change this method to be on edit. And let's pass in the product here. So now let's create the onEdit method down here. Let's put that underneath onDelete. So onEdit, and it's going to get the product. And to figure out which one we click on, we're going to keep track of the edit ID or the ID of the one that we're editing. So let's set this.edit ID, and to have this be a property, we need to put that up here in our data. So let's keep track of the edit ID. Let's initialize it to empty string, which won't match with anything. And then after we click on the pencil icon, let's set the edit ID to product.product ID, like that. And then let's keep track of all of the properties that we're editing. So let's say this.edit product data, just like the add product data up here. Let's create that up here also. So let's have an edit product data. And it's going to start off as being the same thing. And then after we click on the pencil icon, it's going to be replaced with the data of the product that we click on. So now let's go back up here. And now up here, let's create our v-if tag here. So down here, we'll say div. And then let's make this multi-line. Let's make this v-if. So basically, if the edit ID is equal to the product.product ID, then we're going to render this element here. So let's say the class is going to be equal to collection item, once again, and then products list item, same thing here. And then in here, let's put the ID without an input because we don't want the ID to be editable. And then here, let's put in div, and then let's have inputs here. So let's have input, and then the data in this input will be, we'll say it has a class of validate, and then it'll have a v model of edit product data dot name. So we'll start with the name here, and then we'll copy this and do the same thing with price. And then down here, we'll change this to be v-if or v-else here, so that if it is not the edit ID, it's going to be rendered, this one's going to be rendered. So this will be v-else, and then we'll save it. Now if we click on the pencil icon, the edit ID will be set to this ID right here, which will match with the product ID here. So it's going to render the inputs here, or else it's going to render the regular product here. Now let's learn how to do dynamic classes with vbind class. So let's say we want to give this a custom class dependent on whether this matches or not. So let's say here vbind class. So we only want this class to show up if it is in edit mode. So we'll give it an extra class of yellow lighten for if this conditional is true right here. So let's just copy paste that down here. So basically, if this is true, this is also going to have the class yellow lighten for. Now we technically don't need this because if this is true, then we're going to be using this class anyways, but we're just doing this to show you how this vbind class property works, or attribute works. So let's try it again. Let's save it, refresh it. Actually, I didn't need to do that. Click on the edit, and you'll see that it has the yellow property there, and it's showing up only if this is true. If this was false, it would not show up. So if I did that, it would not show up. Let's try that. So that doesn't show up there, but when this is true, this class name will indeed show up, and the auto refresh is showing it automatically. Now let's learn how to actually edit the data for our product. So to do that, let's create 2 buttons. One's going to be a confirm button, one's going to be a cancel button. And let's go up here, let's paste that right here. This one's going to be a check for confirm. This one's going to be a cancel for cancel. Nope, this should be check. Save it. And so you see the check mark right there. And then let's first do our onCancel method here. And what onCancel is going to do is it's going to basically reset what we did in our onEdit function here. And actually right here, we don't actually want to make this equal to product because that's going to be a reference rather than static. So let's do .name equals product.name. And then let's do the same thing here for price. .price equals price. And that'll be the same thing basically. And then on cancel, we're going to basically reset what we did there. So we'll say these two lines we'll copy over. So let's copy over all three of these lines. And we're just going to reset these back to empty strings like that. Here we go. All right. So now let's test it out. When we click on the pencil and we try to edit it, and then we click on the X, it'll go back to the original. Now let's set up our onEditSubmit method here. So let's change this to onEditSubmit. And basically when we do that, we want to submit it to our Firestore. So let's add a onEditSubmit function here. And the syntax for that is going to be very similar to our delete syntax. So let's actually copy that over so we don't need to rewrite all of that. So we're going to basically search for product ID equals, and this one's going to be this.edit ID here, since we have that stored. And then we're going to get the query snapshot for each of one. And then for each of them, instead of delete, we're going to set. So let's say .set, and then we'll say product ID is equal to this.edit ID. And then name is going to be equal to this.edit product data. .name, and then price is going to be equal to this.edit product data .price. And then after we do all of that, we basically want to reset our edit stuff. So let's just say this.onCancel. And then after we set it, we also want to reset our product data again, this.getProducts. So let's test that out to see how that works. Let's change this to iPad, and maybe 200 right there. Click our check mark. And you'll see that it properly updated to iPad and 200, which is what we entered into our form. Now let's learn how to use our router to direct the user to an actual product page where the user can buy that product. To do that, let's create another component here. Let's call it product page.view. And in this file, let's basically copy over what we had. Let's copy over a easier thing right here. Let's copy over this just to kind of get a starting point. Let's erase the template here. Let's just put a div here for now. And then let's call this product page. And then let's get rid of the style here. And let's add a scoped here for just to make sure that it's scoped just to this page. And then in here, let's basically render h1. And it's going to be the name. We just have a name and a price. We're not going to put an ID on the product page. And then we will put a h2 here that will have the price. And inside of the code here, we're going to have a data property, data method here, and it's going to return name. It's going to start off as empty string because we don't have that yet. And basically to get this data, we want to search for the specific product that we got directed to. And to do that, we're going to use the URL. So in here, let's create a router link. So the router that Vue uses router link to direct to other routes. And let's make this a search. And then let's get rid of this click here. Let's put a router link around this. So it's going to be router link. And what we're going to have in here is we're going to have let me just close this first. Let's put this inside of there. And so the router link needs a 2 here. So the syntax for this is going to be 2 equals, and it's going to be an object. It could just be a string, but since we want to send the param of the product ID, we're going to use an object here. So you could do 2, just like maybe shop page or something like that, but we want to have this be an object. So we have params here. Let's make the params name is going to be the product page that we created right here. And then the params we're going to send over the product ID is going to be the product.product ID. And then let's define this route in our router. So in our router.index or router/index, we're going to add a path here. So when the path is going to be, let's say this is going to be shop/, then we use a colon to catch the parameters. And so we have a parameter of product ID here, and you'll see that here we gave a param of product ID. That's where it's going to be caught. And then here, let's name this product page, and then the component will be, let's put in our product page component here. So product page, and this one will be the product page. And so now when we click on this router link button, it's going to direct us to the product page, and the name is defined right there. And in the router, the path for the product page is going to be /shop/product ID. So let's test that out. When we click on the magnifying glass, it will indeed direct us to shop/to, which is the product ID. Let's go back for now. And now what we want to do is that when we load the shop/to, we want the data from the ID of 2 to be loaded here. So to do that, let's go back to our product page. Let's create another lifecycle method. This one will be before create. So basically before this is created, we want to fetch the data and then populate the name and the price here. And in this here, we're going to basically use the same syntax as the delete and edit here. Let's take the delete since it's shorter. We're just going to edit a few things. So DB collection products, where product ID is equal to, in here, we want to use the route params. So to do that, we can do this.route. This is going to grab this URL right here. And then we can do .params.product ID. And we can grab this product ID because we have that defined right here and right here in the router link right here. So let's go back here. And we're going to get it, and then we're going to get the query snapshot. And then for each, we're going to basically set this.name and this.price. So we'll say this.name is equal to doc.data.name. Actually, let's destructure that up here. So to make it cleaner, let's say const name price equals doc.data. And then let's just say this.name equals name. And then this.price equals price. So let's try that out. Oh, and we need to import the DB again. So let's actually grab that from up here. Import DB from DB. Save it. Now you'll see that the page populates with iPad and 200. Let's put a $sign here before the price, since this is the actual buy product page. And let's add a button down here with the class of btn, and let's have it say buy, since this is our buy page. Now when we refresh it, you'll see that the $sign shows up first. So let's actually create a loading page before all of this shows up, just to do something different. So let's say loaded is equal to false, and then up here we'll say basically div if or v-if loaded. Then we're going to render this data here. Else, we are going to div v else. Else we are going to render, let's just do a h1 of loading. And then here we'll say after this is all done, after we've loaded the data, let's say this.loaded is equal to true. So let's try that out. So when we refresh it, you'll see loading, and then it'll load once the data has come in. Now let's learn how to break our app into smaller components so that our app is less monolithic. So you'll see up here there's a huge template here with a lot of code, and it's hard to find exactly what we're looking for. So let's first take our add product here and turn that into a component. So what we're going to do here, let's create a folder. Let's name it products. This is where our different components for products is going to live. Let's create a new file here called products.vue. Let's copy this code in there. And let's actually delete this file right here. And then let's change our reference in our router to be products/products. Save it and save that. Now let's create another file. Let's start by creating a component for our add product code. So let's go here. Let's basically copy all of this code here, and all we want is the add product part. So let's keep this part up till here, and then let's delete this code all the way down here, like that. And then let's get rid of all of this stuff here. Let's name this one, oh, this one's still named Hello World. Let's change that to be products. And then let's change this to be add product. And we're going to get rid of all of this data methods here. We're going to keep this component as simple or as dumb as possible. We'll keep all of the logic still in our products here so that all of our logic and our data is in one place, kind of like Redux. And here we're just going to put the template just to break it up. And to do that, we need to define which props this component will accept. So here, the different variables that we have are, we really just have add product data and on add. These are the two things that we're going to get from our parent component. So let's just put those here. Add product data and on add. This is just defining what this component will accept from its parent. And so now let's go back to our products here. Let's import add product from, and we'll just say this is going to be from this same folder. Add product here. We can use a / there. And we're going to define a components property here. And one of the components that we're going to get in is add product. And the way that you use this component up here is you're going to lowercase it and add hyphens between the two. So what we can do is we can replace this with add product. Just lowercase add product. And we want to pass in the props that we defined over here. So we want to put in the add product data and the on add. To do that, we do v bind add product data equals add product data, and then on add, we'll do the same thing with on add. So let's do copy paste, and then we'll do on add. Now let's save that, refresh it. Now let's test out our adding of a product. Let's say MacBook 2500, press the plus button, and it still adds as we expected. So we didn't break any functionality, and now our template just looks that much cleaner. We've broken out the add product template in here. Now let's break out the products list into a products list component. You'll see this is a lot of code, so it's kind of good to get that separated out so we can find it more easily and think about it as a self-contained unit. So let's create a component called products list here, .view. Let's do the same thing that we did here. Copy paste this entire thing, paste it here. Let's delete everything except for the products thing here. Erase that, and then let's delete this DB here, this add product here. Let's name this products list. Now let's get rid of all of this stuff down here. And then let's define the props that we will accept here. And this is going to accept a few more props. It's going to take in, I'm just going to list them out here. Edit ID, edit product data, on cancel, on delete, on edit, and then on edit submit, and then sorted products. So then right here, let's go back here and let's import in our products list component here. Copy paste that. Products list. And let's define that down here. Products list. And then let's use this component up here by replacing this with products list. And then we're going to v-bind all of these things right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if this works. Try to copy paste all of this, put that here. And then we're going to Let's get rid of all of these things here. Get rid of the commas here. And then let's just try to do this. This is pretty cool, Sublime. vbind that. We're going to copy that. Equals, boom. Let's save it. Refresh it. Make sure this all still works. We can delete it, and that works. We can edit. It looks like that. Let's change this to something that cost $1 gajillion. Press the check mark, and it saves correctly. So we've componentized our app without breaking functionality. You can see that this looks a lot cleaner. We know exactly what this code does. It adds the product. We know what this does. It's the product list. We can go to the file and edit it there. All of our logic is here, so we know where our data is and where our methods are. So this is a lot cleaner. And that's all for this tutorial. If you liked it, please subscribe or like and leave some comments to help us out. And we'll see you next time.